Eli Tanner didn't scare easily. Living off-grid in the rugged hills of Colorado, he'd seen enough wild animals, flash floods, and unpredictable storms to dull the nerves of any average man. But on that cold October night, something pulled him out of bed, not with a bang, but with a hum. It was low at first, a faint vibration, almost like the distant rumble of an engine buried underground. He sat upright, unsure if he'd dreamed it, but there it was again. A pulse, a subtle resonance that seemed to echo from the backyard, from somewhere beneath the soil. He grabbed his flashlight and stepped out into the cold. His boots crunched on the frost-coated grass as he made his way past the shed. The air was unusually still. No wind, no rustle of trees. Just the rhythmic, almost melodic hum that grew louder with every step. And then he saw it. The rock had always been there, a broad, flat boulder, half buried behind the greenhouse. Eli had never given it much thought, but now, in the dim beam of his flashlight, he noticed the surface trembling ever so slightly. A soft bluish glow pulsed from a jagged line near its center. "What in the hell?" he muttered. "Before we uncover what's inside the rock, hit that subscribe button and join us for this unfolding mystery. You won't believe what's coming next." Eli crouched beside the stone, running his fingers along the warm surface. It was definitely warmer than the surrounding air, unnaturally so. He felt the vibration in his fingertips. It wasn't mechanical, he was sure of that. It felt alive. Back inside, his 10-year-old daughter Maya was already awake, standing barefoot at the window in her pajamas. "You heard it too," she said quietly, not turning around. Eli blinked. "You shouldn't be up." "I couldn't sleep. It feels like it's calling." He frowned. "What does?" "The rock," she said. "It's singing." Her words sent a chill down his spine. Not because of what she said, but how she said it, with certainty, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The next morning, the humming had stopped. Eli checked the rock again. The glow had faded. The warmth was gone. He scraped his boot along the jagged line, but found no opening, no crack, just solid stone. Still, he couldn't shake the unease from his bones. Over breakfast, Maya watched him closely. "Are you going to tell someone?" she asked. "Tell them what? That a rock was humming in my backyard?" She shrugged. "They'd probably think you're crazy." He smiled at her dry honesty, but the smile faded quickly. Deep down, he knew something had changed. The land felt different. The birds didn't sing that morning. Even the wind seemed reluctant to pass through. That afternoon, he walked the perimeter of his property. Everything appeared normal. No new disturbances, no footprints, no machinery sounds. But when he returned home, he found Maya sitting cross-legged by the rock, sketching in her notebook. "What are you drawing?" he asked. She tilted the page. It was a swirling spiral with sharp angles, like a maze wrapped around a circle. "Where'd you see that?" he asked, alarm rising in his voice. "I didn't see it," she said. "I dreamed it." Eli stared at the pattern. Something about it felt ancient, familiar even, though he couldn't place it. He reached for the drawing, but Maya pulled it back protectively. "I think it's important," she said softly. "Like a message." That night the humming returned, louder this time and in intervals. Eli lay awake, counting the pulses. 12 seconds between each one. 12 seconds of silence, then 12 seconds of a tone that resonated in his chest. By dawn, he'd made up his mind. He needed to know what was buried under that rock. The sound had stopped again, but the silence it left behind felt heavier than before. Eli stood beside the rock, arms crossed, brow furrowed. The early morning light spilled over the ridge, casting a dull gleam across the stone's surface. Whatever was happening, it wasn't over. It had only begun. Maya hovered nearby, her eyes fixed on the cracked line that now ran across the center of the rock like a scar. It hadn't been there the day before, not like this. It was deeper now, wider. As Eli watched, a thin curl of white smoke drifted from the fissure, twisting into the cold morning air. Eli stepped back instinctively. "Stay behind me." "I wasn't going to touch it," Maya said. But her voice trembled. The sight of the smoke, quiet, deliberate, struck her with a kind of awe she couldn't explain. The scent was faint, earthy with a metallic tang, like damp stone laced with copper. Eli crouched beside the rock and pulled a cloth from his jacket pocket, waving it cautiously through the smoke. It didn't sting, didn't burn, but something about it felt wrong. Not dangerous, just unnatural. He thought of the hum, of the warmth, of the strange timing. His mind searched for a scientific explanation. Gas pocket, thermal expansion, seismic activity, but he knew it wasn't that. This wasn't random. Maya's voice broke the silence. "Do you remember when we used to camp up near Devil's Ridge? Mom used to say the rocks could talk if you listened long enough." Eli's jaw tightened. He nodded once, his eyes still on the stone. "She would have loved this," Maya whispered. He didn't reply. Instead, he ran his hand along the rock's edge, then stopped as his fingers brushed against a strange pattern, tiny ridges etched into the stone that hadn't been there yesterday. Not chiseled, not scratched. It looked grown, formed. He traced the design with his fingertips, concentric arcs with sharp points, almost matching the drawing Maya had made in her notebook. His heart began to pound, not from fear, but from recognition. Somewhere in the back of his mind, this symbol felt known, not remembered but understood. Later, inside the cabin, Eli sat at his desk, flipping through an old binder of field notes from his geology days. His hands were steady, but his mind was racing. He wasn't trying to solve it. He was trying to see it, put the pieces in front of him, and let something inside guide the connection. Behind him, Maya sat cross-legged on the couch, her notebook open again. "I think it's opening," she said. Eli turned. "What?" "The rock, the crack. I think it's like a door." He wanted to argue, to correct her, but what if she was right? What if this wasn't just coincidence or geologic anomaly? He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the frost had melted faster around the rock than anywhere else. The ground beneath it was damp, darkened, steaming slightly. "Doors lead somewhere," he said finally. Maya nodded. "Maybe it's not just a rock." Eli didn't sleep that night. His dreams were fractured, filled with images of stones splitting open and whispers in a language he couldn't understand. When he woke, the air in the cabin felt heavy, like the pressure before a thunderstorm. He stepped outside before dawn. The rock sat still in the pre-dawn mist, unchanged but not silent. There was no humming now, but something lingered, a pressure in his ears, a weight in his chest. He crouched beside it and pressed his palm to the surface. The stone was cold again, but the crack had widened, just slightly. A sliver of darkness peered back at him from within. As he pulled his hand away, his fingertips came back marked with a fine grey dust. And on the edge of the stone, just visible in the faint light, were new markings, more symbols. They hadn't been there yesterday, and they matched the ones in Maya's dreams. The symbols kept appearing. Every morning, Eli found new ones etched along the edge of the crack. They weren't random. There was structure, repetition, symmetry, a logic too precise for natural formation. He photographed them, logged them, measured their spacing. Still, none of it made sense, and yet the more he stared at them, the more they felt like a kind of language. Maya spent hours beside the rock, silent and focused. She didn't draw anymore. She just watched, as if waiting for it to speak again. Eli tried to keep her away, tried to distract her with chores, schoolwork, books, but she always found her way back. He installed a small recorder beside the rock, just to prove to himself that the hum wasn't in his head. The next day, when he played it back, what he heard chilled him. The hum was there, clear, steady, unmistakable, but it wasn't just a single tone. When slowed down, layered beneath it were other sounds, faint rhythms, pulsing like a coded message. He isolated the waveforms and ran them through old signal analysis software. It wasn't perfect, but what emerged from the spectrogram was unmistakable. A pattern, repeating frequencies, gaps spaced like breath. 3-second pulses, 12 seconds apart, followed by a longer wave. Eli stared at the graph. It looked familiar, not in content, but in form. It resembled a deep space signal. Years ago, in his early geology work for a defense contractor, he'd collaborated with a group studying the resonant behavior of planetary crusts. During that research, he'd been given access to low-frequency emissions from space, data collected from radio telescopes tuned to regions beyond known pulsars. One of those datasets had a profile eerily close to what he was seeing now. That memory resurfaced like a warning. He replayed the recording. The hum wasn't mechanical, it didn't oscillate like a machine. It breathed. He stared at the waveform on his screen, then at Maya, who was once again by the rock, silent. "Maya," he called, "what does it sound like to you?" She tilted her head. "It's like a lullaby." "That's not a lullaby." "Not for us," she said. He didn't respond. He couldn't, because deep down he feared she was right. That night he brought out his old telescope and pointed it toward the stars. He wasn't sure why. Maybe to feel grounded, maybe to search for something he couldn't name. He looked at the constellations and remembered how, after her mother died, Maya used to lie on the roof and whisper her name to the sky. Maybe she still did. He stepped back inside and found Maya sitting at the table with his field notebook. She'd flipped to a blank page and was writing symbols, not drawing, writing, structured lines, repeated characters. Some mirrored the marks on the rock, others were new. "Where did you learn that?" he asked, unable to keep the edge from his voice. "I don't know," she replied. "They're just there. When I close my eyes." Eli stared at the page, a knot forming in his chest. This was beyond sleepwalking or imagination. Something was moving through her, speaking through her. He didn't believe in possession or psychic nonsense, but what was the alternative? The rock was communicating, somehow. He returned to the recording and decided to send the file anonymously to an old contact, Dr. Carol Mendez, a physicist at a university in Arizona. If anyone could decode it, she could, but he didn't sign the email. He wasn't ready to answer questions, not yet. Later, in the quiet of the evening, the hum began again. This time, it was different. Higher pitched, pulsing faster. Maya stood outside already, barefoot in the grass, staring into the darkness. "It's changing," she said. Eli joined her, his eyes scanning the backyard. "Changing how?" "It's listening now." The knock came just after sunrise. It wasn't aggressive, but it was firm. 3 precise raps against the wooden door. Eli opened it cautiously, finding a woman in a dark grey coat, a badge clipped to her belt, and calm eyes that scanned everything behind him before settling on his face. "Mr. Tanner?" she asked. "Who's asking?" "Agent Nora Reyes, Department of Advanced Research Projects. I'd like to speak with you about the rock in your backyard." Eli didn't move. His heart began to pound, but his face remained unreadable. "I don't know what you're talking about." She reached into her coat slowly and held out a tablet. On the screen was a live satellite image, his property, the cabin, and the backyard. A red dot pulsed exactly over the boulder. "We've been monitoring an anomalous frequency for 72 hours, originating here. You're not in trouble, Mr. Tanner, but this is a matter of federal concern now." Eli glanced back over his shoulder, saw Maya still asleep on the couch, curled under a blanket. He stepped outside and shut the door behind him. "What do you want?" "To observe. Take readings. Ensure public safety. I'm not interested in visitors, and I don't trust alphabet agencies snooping on private land." Reyes didn't flinch. "Your daughter's been exposed. The signal has patterns we've seen before. If you won't let us in, we'll be forced to return with a warrant, or worse, a containment order." Eli's jaw clenched. "She's not part of this." "She is now." He held her gaze for a long moment, then motioned for her to follow. They walked to the backyard. The rock sat as it always did, silent and cracked, faint traces of symbols still visible. Reyes studied it carefully, eyes narrowing. "It's further along than we expected." "What does that mean?" She pulled out a small handheld scanner. Lights flickered across its surface. The energy signature matches an incident from 1987. Nevada desert. 2 civilian deaths, 14 exposed. We've seen this before. You're telling me this thing's dangerous? I'm telling you it's not new, and it doesn't come from us. Eli stepped in front of her. "I want answers. You're on my land. No more vague talk. What is it?" Reyes hesitated. "We call them lithos signals, deep earth anomalies. Some appear naturally, but a few, like this, are engineered. The last one appeared near a mining town in Alaska. The entire site had to be buried." Eli's blood ran cold. "Why?" "Because it grew, and because it communicated." They stared at each other in silence. Then Reyes added, "I'm trying to avoid another disaster. You need to let us contain it." He shook his head. "This isn't a biohazard. It hasn't hurt anyone." Reyes narrowed her eyes. "Yet." Before Eli could respond, Maya stepped out the back door, rubbing her eyes. "Dad? What's going on?" Reyes glanced at her and softened slightly. "Maya, right?" Eli moved quickly. "Go back inside." But Maya was already staring at Reyes. "So you heard it too, didn't you?" The agent paused. "Heard what?" The voice in the hum. Reyes said nothing. Maya walked to the rock and placed her hand on its surface. The moment her fingers touched it, the hum began again, low, insistent, undeniable. Reyes stepped back, startled. "It's responding to her," she whispered. Eli pulled Maya back, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. "So you've made your point," he said. "Now leave." Reyes didn't argue. She took one last look at the rock, then at Maya, and returned to the front gate. As she left, she said, "You don't have long, Mr. Tanner. If this continues, containment becomes mandatory, and if you obstruct that, custody becomes negotiable." The door closed behind her. Eli stood in silence, breathing hard, staring at the rock. Maya held his hand tightly. "Are they going to take me away?" she asked. He looked down at her, his voice low and steady. "Not if I can help it." The air had changed. It wasn't something Eli could explain with instruments or data, though he tried. The temperature around the rock remained a few degrees warmer than the rest of the property. The birds hadn't returned, and the trees closest to the stone had stopped shedding leaves as if frozen in transition. The grass near the crack had yellowed in a perfect semicircle. He dug. He told Maya it was a soil test, an experiment, something to keep her distracted. But what he wanted, what he needed, was to see what lay beneath. He took a pickaxe and shovel and began cutting a perimeter around the boulder, widening the hole a few inches each day. It was backbreaking work, but something about it felt urgent. 3 feet down, the shovel struck something solid. Not stone, something else. Metallic. Smooth. Eli knelt and brushed away the dirt, revealing a vein of dull grey metal running down beneath the earth, connected to the rock like a buried root. His breath caught. He followed it for several feet, but it disappeared deeper into the soil. He covered it up again quickly, unsure whether to dig further or not at all. When he returned to the surface, Maya was waiting. "You found something," she said. He didn't ask how she knew. That night the hum returned, stronger. It didn't sound like a tone anymore. It pulsed in waves, long, slow, almost like breath. The cabin walls vibrated faintly. Plates in the kitchen trembled. Maya sat on the floor, eyes closed, her hands resting on her knees. "It's not just sound," she said, "it's feeling. It moves through you." Eli wanted to pull her away from it, force her to unsee whatever had taken root in her mind. But something held him back. Her calm, her certainty. It was as though the rock had given her purpose. The next morning she approached him with something new, a whisper. "I heard it speak," she said. Eli set down his coffee, watching her carefully. "What did it say?" She hesitated. "I don't know the words, but I understood. It's not finished." Later that day he returned to the excavation. This time he used a flashlight and scanned the soil for more metal veins. He found another line, thinner, branching off the first, running beneath the greenhouse. They weren't random, they were part of a structure, a system. He didn't know what it was, but it had intent. The metal was seamless, without welds or joints. No corrosion, no tool marks. It was unlike any alloy he had studied. He took a small sample and examined it under a magnifier. The surface refracted light oddly, bending it in unnatural ways. It pulsed faintly to the rhythm of the hum. He hadn't imagined it. That night, Reyes returned. She didn't knock. He opened the door before she could lift her hand. "You need to stop," she said. "Now." Eli didn't move. "You're making it worse." "What is it?" he asked. "I already told you." "No," he interrupted. "You told me what you think. I want to know what you believe." Reyes looked tired. "I believe it's not from here, and I believe it's choosing." "Choosing what?" She glanced over his shoulder at Maya, standing silently by the window. "Not what? Who?" Eli's pulse quickened. "You think it's using her?" Reyes didn't answer directly. "The last time this happened, the person at the center didn't survive." Eli stepped forward. "Then why are you still here?" "Because I don't think it's trying to kill her. I think it's trying to become her." The silence that followed was suffocating. Eli looked back at Maya. She smiled faintly, as if she'd heard everything and already made peace with it. The silence between them stretched long after Reyes left. Eli couldn't shake her final words. "Not from here. Choosing. Become her." They echoed in his head like the hum itself, vibrating behind his eyes. He watched Maya sleep that night, her breath slow even, unbothered, as if she were already beyond all of it. In the morning, he returned to the shed and pulled out an old chest he hadn't touched in years. It was filled with notes, journals, and maps from his early career, back when geology had meant exploration, not survival. Buried among them was a worn leather notebook from a prospector named Thad Burris, dated 1890. Eli had bought it from a Denver antique store years ago for the sketches inside. The man had documented strange formations and underground vibrations across the Rockies. At the time, Eli had thought it eccentric rambling. Now he wasn't so sure. He flipped through the brittle pages until one stopped him cold. A drawing, simple, charcoal, but unmistakable. A rock, cracked down the middle, ringed with spiral markings. Notes beside it read, "Sings at dusk, emits vapor, roots like silver veins. Locals fear it. One child disappeared." Eli stared at the sketch, heart pounding. This had happened before. He cross-referenced the location in the journal with old mining charts. It pointed to a region near Glenwood Springs, an abandoned settlement now buried under rockfall. No roads, no survivors. He scoured archived newspapers and found a headline from 1891. "Children missing after earth tremors, town abandoned." The details were scarce. No official investigation, no follow-up. He looked back at Maya's latest drawings, now covering half the cabin wall. They weren't random anymore. They formed sequences, maps, maybe, a system. And when he overlaid one of her patterns with the prospector's old sketch, they aligned perfectly. This wasn't a local phenomenon, it was ancient. Eli gathered a soil sample from near the rock and took it to the cabin's makeshift lab bench. Under the microscope, the sample looked ordinary, at first, but when exposed to light from his spectrometer, particles inside shimmered and rearranged. It behaved like a reactive crystal, aligning to the frequency of the hum, still echoing faintly from outside. He recorded the reaction and ran comparisons through his offline database. The closest match. An unclassified mineral found in fragments at a meteor site in Siberia, classified under a military seal 2 decades ago. He hadn't worked on that team, but he remembered the stories. Strange radiation signatures, localized mental disturbances, a ban on civilian research. Now it was here, beneath his land, speaking through his daughter. Maya came into the room quietly. "I saw the others," she said. Eli turned to her. "What others?" "In the dream. They were deep underground, sleeping, waiting, like seeds." His throat tightened. "What do they want?" She shook her head. "They don't want. They remember." Later, as he watched her draw once more, he noticed something new. A wide circular pattern around a central point dotted with smaller symbols in orbit. It looked like a blueprint. Not architectural, geological. A map of what lay beneath. Eli decided he had to go deeper. He retrieved old seismic equipment from storage and placed sensors in the ground around the property. The readings came back strange, distortions at shallow depth, forming a dome beneath the rock as if something massive rested under the surface. Not a cave, a chamber. And at the center, the strongest pulse yet. He stared at the data, dread crawling up his spine. Whatever was below wasn't just buried, it was waking. The ground trembled softly that morning. Not a quake, just a subtle, rhythmic tremor, as if the earth beneath the house were breathing. Eli stood barefoot on the porch, eyes fixed on the rock. It no longer seemed like a relic. It had presence now, like something aware of him. Inside, Maya stirred restlessly. She hadn't slept well. For 3 nights she'd spoken in her sleep, whispering sounds Eli couldn't recognize. They weren't words, not English, not any language he'd ever heard. When he stepped back into the cabin, she was already awake, sitting upright with her eyes wide, though not panicked. "It's ready," she said. Eli knelt beside her. "What's ready?" She looked at him and smiled gently. "The door." He took a breath. "You dreamed it again?" She shook her head. "I didn't have to. It called." Later that day, the humming returned with a clarity that hadn't been there before. It wasn't just louder, it had structure. Harmonies, resonance, patterns layered within patterns. Eli placed both hands on the rock and felt it vibrate under his skin. It was no longer humming at random. It was singing. Then Maya reached out and touched the crack. The effect was instant. A surge of light burst from the fracture, soft, blue-white, pulsing, and Maya's eyes rolled back. Her knees gave way. Eli caught her before she hit the ground. Her body was limp, her skin cold. "Maya!" he shouted, cradling her. She wasn't breathing. Then, after a few seconds that stretched like eternity, she inhaled sharply. Her body arched, her eyes flew open, and they glowed. Just for a second, a pale shimmer rippled through her irises before fading. She looked around, confused but calm. "What happened?" Eli asked, breath ragged. She blinked slowly. "I saw it." "What did you see?" She hesitated, then whispered, everything. Eli wrapped her in a blanket and held her close, though she didn't seem afraid. Her body warmed quickly, pulse steady. He wanted to ask questions, dozens of them, but something in her face stopped him. Not because she looked unwell, but because she looked changed. She stared into the distance like she was listening to something far away. "It showed me," she said quietly, "where it came from, where it's been, what it remembers." "What is it?" She paused. "It's not just one thing, it's many. Fragments of something old, something that fell apart and planted itself here." Eli's mind raced. "Why here?" "It needed quiet," she said. "Time. Earth is soft and deep. It remembers too." He didn't understand all of it. He wasn't sure she did either, but every word felt true, like a memory returning. He spent the rest of the day watching her carefully. She ate little, spoke even less. When she did talk, it was soft, distant, as if the part of her that had spoken before hadn't fully come back. She didn't seem possessed, not taken, but she wasn't entirely the same. That evening she asked to go back to the rock. Eli refused, but at midnight she was gone. He found her standing beside the stone, barefoot in the frost, eyes closed. The glow had returned, subtle this time, a halo of light around the crack. Her hands hovered inches from the surface. "I can feel them," she said, eyes still shut. "They're waking too." Eli reached for her. "Come back inside." She opened her eyes and something in her gaze stopped him cold. "Not yet," she said. Then she turned and walked past him, back into the cabin, leaving the rock still pulsing in the dark. Eli followed, heart heavy with questions. For the first time he wasn't sure she belonged entirely to him anymore. By morning Maya was different. She moved through the cabin with eerie calm, as if she were walking through a memory instead of the present. Her eyes scanned objects like she was rediscovering them, familiar, yet foreign. When Eli asked how she felt, she only said, "Awake." He watched her from the kitchen table as she studied a book of constellations they'd read together a dozen times. But now she turned pages without reading, fingers gliding over star charts with quiet reverence. At one point she paused and touched a cluster near Orion's belt. "They came from there," she said. Eli tried to keep his voice steady. "The rock?" "No," she replied. "The ones inside it." He stared at her, unsure whether to challenge her or believe her. Later that day, she began solving equations. Eli had left some old notes on the table, quantum resonance patterns he'd studied in college. Maya picked up a pen and began filling in the gaps, balancing frequencies and adjusting symbols like a practiced physicist. Her hand moved quickly, confidently. "Maya," he said, stepping closer, "how do you know this?" She looked up. "It's in the hum. The sound tells me." He sat across from her. "What else does it tell you?" "That it's been here a long time," she said, hiding, waiting for someone who could carry the memory. "The memory of what?" She tapped her chest. "Of everything it lost." The words unsettled him more than he expected. Eli had always trusted his senses, his data, his reason, but there was nothing logical about this. His daughter was being used, or maybe chosen, and he didn't know which was worse. That night she spoke again in her sleep. This time Eli recorded it. He played it back over and over, slowing it down, isolating phonemes, attempting to match it with any known human dialect. Nothing fit. But buried beneath the syllables there was rhythm, pulses that matched the same 12-second intervals as the rock's signal. It wasn't speech, it was code. Eli didn't sleep. He sat beside her bed, watching her breathe. In the quiet he noticed something new. The air near her skin shimmered faintly, like heat rising from pavement. He reached toward her face, stopping inches away. The warmth was real, not feverish, just radiant. He stood up, stepped back. She was becoming something else. In the morning, she woke as if nothing had happened. At her breakfast, brushed her hair, sat quietly by the fire. But the moment Eli tried to mention what he saw, she stopped him. "I know," she said, "and it's okay." "No, Maya, it's not okay." "It will be." He shook his head. "You don't understand what this could be doing to you, your mind, your body." "I do understand," she said calmly. "How you just don't believe me yet." There was no arrogance in her tone, only certainty. He walked outside, needing air. The rock sat motionless, the crack still visible but dormant. For the first time in days, the hum had stopped completely. And yet, he could still feel it, in her. That afternoon, Reyes returned. This time she parked at the bottom of the hill and walked the trail up to the cabin. She looked more alert, tense like someone preparing for a confrontation. "I need to see her," she said. "No," Eli replied. "I'm not here to threaten you," Reyes said. "But if she's bonding with it, if she's merging, we don't have much time." "She's not merging," Eli snapped. "She's being overwritten." Reyes shook her head. "No, she's synchronizing." Eli narrowed his eyes. "You've seen this before." "Once," Reyes said quietly. "And if we're right, she won't stay like this for long." "What happens then?" Reyes looked past him, toward the cabin window. "She stops being just your daughter." Reyes stayed. Eli didn't invite her in, but he didn't send her away either. She stood near the porch, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the backyard. There was a quiet weight to her presence, not fear, but memory. After several minutes of silence, she spoke. "My brother was the first," she said. Eli didn't respond. He just listened. 15 years ago, New Mexico. He was working with a geophysical research team, testing underground resonance equipment near Carlsbad. They picked up a tone buried in limestone. Faint, but constant. "Like what you're hearing now." She paused, eyes distant. "He was the one who followed it. Traced it to a sinkhole on private land. He called me that night, said he found something. Alive, but asleep. The next morning he was gone. The whole team vanished. The site was sealed off. No press, no reports." Eli's voice was low. "And you joined DARPA after that?" She nodded. "To find answers. I thought I could get ahead of it. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't spread like a virus or jump from place to place. It waits, burrows, grows. And now it's here." "Yes," Reyes said, "and it chose her." Eli shook his head. "I don't believe that. She's not chosen, she's caught in it. She's adapting, accepting, that's what makes her different." Eli turned to face her fully. "Then help me. Not with a team, not with guns. I want to understand it." Reyes hesitated. Then slowly she nodded. They spent the next hours poring over the maps, journals, and symbols Maya had drawn. Reyes brought out a file from her coat, a thin folder sealed in plastic. Inside were sketches nearly identical to Maya's, hand-drawn by Reyes's brother, dated weeks before he disappeared. "I think the structures are buried networks," she said. "Not natural, not human. Mineral-based, but with synthetic complexity. They transmit, store, maybe even think." Eli pointed to a node pattern in one of Maya's drawings. "If these are entry points, there might be more of them. A full system, a hive." Reyes leaned forward. "And this one here?" She tapped the largest node. "This could be the center." He traced the coordinates. "It's under this mountain. Your property sits directly over it." Later that evening, they gathered seismic gear, a portable drill and light packs. Maya insisted on coming. "You'll need me," she said. Eli didn't argue. Not this time. They followed the metallic veins buried near the rock, Reyes logging readings as they walked. Just past the tree line, the sensors spiked. The earth here felt different, softer, hollow beneath the crust. Reyes stopped. "This is it." They began to dig, carefully, methodically, until the shovel struck something firm. Not rock, not metal. Something in between. A curved surface, smooth and warm to the touch. Eli cleared more dirt and revealed a section of what looked like a doorway. Maya stepped forward and knelt beside it. Without speaking, she placed her palm flat against the surface. It pulsed. Lights flickered beneath the skin of the structure, blooming in concentric rings around her hand. The ground vibrated slightly, then quieted. "It recognizes her," Reyes whispered. Eli crouched beside his daughter. "What do you see?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood, eyes wide, and pointed toward the slope ahead. "There's more," she said. They pressed forward, clearing brush and rock until the ground beneath them gave way to a hidden incline, a narrow shaft descending into darkness. Cool air rushed upward, tinged with something ancient. Eli looked at Reyes. "We go down?" She nodded. Maya was already stepping forward. The shaft narrowed as they went deeper, walls closing in around them, carved not by tools, but by something older, worn smooth, almost grown. The air was cold and dense, filled with a faint charge that clung to their skin. Each step echoed faintly, as if the tunnel itself was listening. Maya led the way. She moved without hesitation, pausing only when the path forked. At each junction, she'd touch the wall gently, eyes closed. Then, choose. Eli and Reyes followed in silence, unsure whether to question her instincts. So far, she hadn't been wrong. They passed symbols etched into the stone, spirals, arcs, repeating marks that glowed faintly when Maya drew near. Reyes took photos, her hands steady, but Eli saw the tension in her eyes. This wasn't discovery. This was intrusion. After an hour, the tunnel widened into a chamber. The space was massive, domed, and entirely silent. Light came not from torches or bulbs, but from the walls themselves, thin veins of luminescence tracing patterns across the stone. The air felt warmer here, heavier, almost sacred. At the center stood a structure. It rose from the floor like a spire of fused crystal and metal, 5 meters tall, faceted and humming. It wasn't mechanical, but it wasn't natural either. It pulsed in slow rhythm, echoing the 12-second interval they'd come to recognize. Maya approached it slowly, hands open. The hum shifted, grew softer, more melodic. "She's stabilizing it," Reyes said under her breath. Eli looked at her. "What happens if she doesn't?" Reyes didn't answer. Maya reached the spire and pressed her palm to it. A surge of light spiraled outward, illuminating the entire chamber. The walls pulsed with color, blue, gold, white, then settled. The hum stopped. Silence. Maya turned to them, her expression calm. "It was broken," she said, "but it remembers how to be whole." Eli stepped forward. "What is this place?" "It's not a place," Maya said softly. "It's a heart." Reyes examined the spire. A core node. Like a server, but organic. It's storing something. "Memories," Maya said. "Lives. They lost their world. They tried to preserve it." Eli struggled to keep up. "So this is a vault," Maya nodded. "A seed of what they were." "And now," Reyes asked, "they need a translator, a vessel, to be remembered." Maya placed both hands on the spire again. It responded instantly, projecting patterns of light that danced across the chamber. Holographic, but made of energy rather than image. Shapes moved like constellations, shifting and spinning. Language without words, meaning through motion. Eli watched in awe. "They're showing us." Maya's voice changed slightly, deeper, echoed. "They are showing me." Reyes raised a device and scanned the room. Her screen flickered, distorted. "The electromagnetic field is surging. We're reaching a threshold. If it goes too far—" "I can stop it," Maya said. Eli stepped closer. "What does that mean?" Maya looked at him, and for a moment, he saw her. Just her. His daughter. "I can hold it, but I won't stay." "No," Eli said, voice breaking. "You don't have to do this." Reyes lowered her scanner. "If she doesn't, it collapses. The memory dies, all of it." The hum returned, softer now but building. The walls vibrated. The lights dimmed, then brightened in pulses. Something deeper was waking. Maya stepped back from the spire and turned toward the far side of the chamber. "There's a door," she said. Reyes followed her gaze. A section of wall had shifted. A passage now opened, curving downward into shadow. "It goes deeper," Maya whispered, "to where they sleep." Eli looked from his daughter to the passage. Then he looked back at the spire, alive now, glowing in rhythm with her breath. "We're past the point of no return," Reyes said, and Maya, without fear, stepped forward into the dark. The descent was slower this time. The tunnel curved gently, as if bored through layers of stone by something ancient and deliberate. The air thickened, tinged with the metallic scent of ozone and earth. Their footsteps softened as they moved, sound swallowed by the dense silence pressing around them. Maya walked with unwavering focus. She didn't speak, but Eli could tell she was listening. Head tilted subtly, breath synchronized with the faint pulses echoing through the walls. She was in tune with it now, not just interpreting the signal, but moving in harmony with it. They entered the lower chamber. This space was unlike the one above, wider, colder, covered in thousands of crystalline pillars rising from floor to ceiling, each one humming faintly with inner light. The effect was breathtaking, like standing inside a frozen symphony. Eli moved slowly, hand brushing a pillar. In that instant, a memory not his own flashed behind his eyes. Images of another sky, another world burning in silence, towering structures, impossible geometry, collapsing. Children of stone and light fleeing into the void. Then silence. He stumbled back, gasping. Reyes steadied him. "You saw it." He nodded. "What happened to them?" "They failed," Maya said softly, walking among the pillars. "They built too much, too fast. Thought they could shape life with thought. It turned on them." Reyes frowned. "They created something they couldn't contain." Maya turned to them. Not created, invited. It was always there, waiting. Eli's voice was rough. And now? They're still here. In these, she said, gesturing to the pillars. Fragments, preserved consciousness, hoping to be remembered. And what do they want with you? She hesitated. To finish the memory. At the far end of the chamber stood a raised platform. Maya climbed it slowly and placed both hands on its surface. The crystals around them brightened. The hum shifted, layered now with tone and rhythm, a language speaking through vibration. A low frequency enveloped them. Reyes flinched. Her device crackled, overloaded. Eli felt pressure behind his eyes, a deep thrum that bypassed thought and went straight to the core of him. Then, silence. The lights dimmed, and Maya fell to her knees. Eli rushed to her, heart hammering. Maya! She opened her eyes slowly, but they weren't her eyes anymore, not completely. A soft glow rimmed the irises, and her voice, when she spoke, carried an echo. Don't be afraid. He knelt beside her, gripping her shoulders. What's happening to you? They showed me the last memory, she said. How they lost their form, how they survived as light. They've been waiting for a vessel, one who can carry thought without fear. Reyes stepped forward cautiously. You mean you? I'm not the first, Maya said, but I might be the last. Eli's voice cracked. You're still you, right? She placed her hand over his heart. I am, but I'm more now. The ground beneath them vibrated. The pillars brightened, and above they could hear the chamber's resonance grow stronger. Something was changing. Something vast was stirring beneath the network. Reyes looked up. We triggered it. We're in the center. Eli helped Maya to her feet. We need to leave. But Maya didn't move. If I leave now, it all fades. The memory dissolves. The seed dies. You're not responsible for this, Eli said. You're just a child. She looked at him sadly. I was. A sudden pulse shook the chamber. The walls shivered. Cracks of golden light formed in the ground. Reyes backed away. It's awakening. Maya's eyes glowed brighter. They're asking me to choose. Eli held her hand tightly. Then choose us. She looked into his eyes. I don't know if I can. The hum grew heavier. It pressed on their chests, vibrating deep in their bones, neither painful nor comforting, just inevitable. The crystalline chamber around them was alive now, pulsing with ancient energy, responding to Maya's presence like a memory echoing through flesh. Reyes took a step back, face pale. This is a live transmission, she said. It's not just a memory, it's a link. Real time. Eli turned to her. To where? I don't know, somewhere else, or somewhen. Maya stood still, hands outstretched, eyes glowing faintly. Her breath was slow, controlled. She wasn't afraid. She was listening. Reyes pulled a device from her jacket, a rectangular emitter, small, matte black. She flicked a switch, and a soft whine filled the air. Eli frowned. What is that? Signal jammer, she said. Designed for short bursts. It should block the resonance. You said we couldn't stop it. I said we shouldn't. There's a difference. The light around them dimmed slightly, the hum weakening. Maya staggered. Eli moved to her. Turn it off. Reyes hesitated. If we don't contain this now, there's no going back. She's not a threat, Eli said. She's not a weapon. She's my daughter. She's a conduit, Reyes said, and once they've fully merged, she might not be yours anymore. Maya raised her head. They don't want to take. They want to remember. They want to live without form, through thought, through me. Reyes's voice cracked. That's not life. That's occupation. No, Maya said gently. It's connection. The light surged again, pushing back against the jammer. Crystals flared, the hum reshaping into something melodic. Notes of sorrow and memory. A song written in vibration. Reyes stepped forward. If we wait too long, the military will step in. They're tracking my signal. Backup is coming. Eli's heart dropped. You brought them here. I had to. We don't understand what this could become. You don't get to decide that alone. I didn't, she said. They did. Outside, the tremors reached the surface. In the upper chamber, soil cracked, stones shifted. The mountain was stirring. Something deep, long dormant, now breathing. Inside, Maya walked to the center of the platform and knelt. If I let it finish, she said, there will be peace. If we stop it, the fragments scatter. They die. Again. Eli crouched beside her. You don't have to carry them. You're just a girl. She took his hand. I'm still me, but I'm not only me. He looked into her eyes and saw both grief and wonder, and something else, acceptance. Reyes raised the jammer again. If I activate the full burst, it ends now. Eli stood. And you'll lose her, forever. I might lose her anyway. Then let her choose. Reyes hesitated. Outside, the first low rumble of helicopters echoed through the canyon. Inside, the light intensified. Maya stood, bathed in golden glow. They don't want to control, they want to remember. They want to share what was lost. If we let them, we'll see the truth. Reyes looked at her, then at Eli. I need you to trust me, he said. Slowly, Reyes lowered the jammer. Maya smiled, relieved. The chamber steadied. The hum softened. Crystals shimmered with memory, not force. Then a voice, not spoken but felt, moved through all three of them. A wave of emotion and vision, time folding in on itself. Skies from another world. Faces long gone. A warmth that felt like mourning and hope at once. Maya looked up. They're ready. Eli took a step forward. Breath held. For what? Maya reached toward the light. To become again. The first shockwave struck without warning. A deep, resonant pulse burst from the crystalline core, shaking the ground beneath their feet. The chamber groaned as pillars flickered, dimmed, then blazed with violent intensity. The hum had become a roar, layered, chaotic, like the voices of 100 broken choirs colliding at once. Eli pulled Maya to him instinctively. What's happening? Her voice was steady, eyes glowing bright. They're completing the connection, the final memory. It's painful. Reyes scanned the chamber. It's unstable. They're overloading the field. No, Maya said. They're releasing what's left. Above, the mountain rumbled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Far off, the rhythmic chop of helicopter blades cut through the chaos. The military had arrived. They're going to breach, Reyes said. If they come down here, it'll collapse everything. Eli looked toward the tunnel. Then we hold them back. You can't stop them. I'm not leaving her. The floor cracked beneath the platform, and from it emerged tendrils of light, archways of energy arcing upward, connecting the crystals like synapses in a living brain. The network had reached full activation. The chamber was alive. Maya stood tall at the center. They're not trying to escape, she said. They're trying to give it away, all of it, what they once were before they fell. Reyes turned to her. Then why the quakes? Why the chaos? Because it's not just thought, Maya said. It's grief. Their end wasn't quiet. They remember the pain. Another tremor hit, this one stronger. Crystals began to fracture, some exploding into shards of shimmering dust. Reyes shielded her face. We won't survive much more of this. Maya stepped forward, arms raised. The energy around her responded instantly, folding into a shell that deflected the falling debris. Eli watched in disbelief as the barrier thickened, stabilizing the air within its field. She's controlling it, Reyes whispered. Maya's feet lifted slightly off the ground. Her hair moved as if underwater. She spoke without opening her mouth now, her voice inside their minds. They need one mind to carry the memory, but the moment is closing. If I don't choose, it disperses. Eli stepped closer, desperate. Then don't choose. Let it fade. We'll find another way. There isn't time, she said. They've waited too long. The cycle is ending. Outside, the tunnel burst open. Dust and shouts filled the air. Flashlights scanned the chamber. Soldiers in black tactical gear poured in, weapons raised, confused by what they saw. Hold your fire! Reyes shouted, stepping between them and the core. One soldier raised a device to his ear. Command, we've got... His voice cut off as the chamber's frequency struck again, this time higher, piercing. Men dropped their gear, clutching heads. Maya floated above the platform now, encased in light. Dad, she said, the word echoing with layered tones. I can keep it safe. Eli's voice cracked. You don't have to. Please. She looked at him. Just her. No entity. No glow. I'm not afraid. And then the spire split. Light burst from the core, engulfing everything. The soldiers fell back. Reyes raised her arms. Eli tried to reach her, but the force pushed him to the ground. Through the blinding radiance, Maya stood calm, arms wide, eyes closed. She was the vessel, and the storm had just begun. Light consumed everything. Eli shielded his eyes, heart pounding as the glow enveloped the chamber. The energy wasn't destructive, it was transcendent. Warm, ancient, almost gentle. But it was everywhere. pouring out of the fractured spire and pulsing through Maya. She hovered silently above the platform, the epicenter of a living storm. The soldiers stood frozen, not by force, but awe. Their weapons hung useless at their sides. None dared move. Reyes stepped forward cautiously. She's stabilizing it. She's containing the memory. Eli took a trembling step closer. Maya, he called, come back to me. Her head turned slightly. He saw her face lit from within. Tears ran down her cheeks, but her expression was calm, peaceful. I love you, she said, her voice now fully hers again. He reached out. Then come down. Let it go. I can't, she said. If I stop, they vanish. All of them. Forever. The glow around her intensified, rising in arcs and threads, weaving patterns in the air, stories written in light. Faces, structures, stars, languages. A civilization's soul unwinding. They want to live in thought, she said. Not conquer. Just be remembered. I'm the bridge. No, Eli said, stepping onto the platform. You're my daughter. I still am, she whispered. She extended her hand. He took it, warmth surging through him. And then he saw what she saw. The world they came from. Vivid skies, crystalline towers, beings of light and form and song. A people not unlike his own, only further down the path. And then the end. Silence, collapse, darkness. The survivors, few, had scattered, embedding themselves across worlds, waiting for someone to complete the memory. He fell to his knees, breath taken. Maya looked to Reyes. You were right to fear, but you were also right to hope. Reyes's eyes welled. I thought we could contain it. You couldn't, Maya said, but you could witness it. And with that the light began to gather, collapsing inward, spiraling back toward the broken spire. The chamber dimmed. The humming faded. Maya floated downward, feet touching the platform softly. For a brief moment, it seemed she might return. Then she looked skyward. They're leaving. Eli stood, voice caught. What about you? She looked into his eyes. I'm going with them. No, he whispered. You don't have to. I do. It's not a burden. It's a choice. He gripped her hands. I won't let go. She smiled, pressing her forehead to his. You never will. I'll always be here. A final surge of light lifted her into the air. The spire closed around her, whole again. The crystals dulled to soft blue. The chamber went still, and she was gone. Eli collapsed to the ground, empty and full at once. Reyes stood nearby, silent, hands trembling. The soldiers lowered their heads. No one spoke. Above, the mountain stopped shaking. The wind calmed. The rock outside cracked one last time, and then fell silent. Reyes helped Eli to his feet. She saved it, all of it. He nodded, tears streaking his face. She became it. Together they walked out of the chamber, through tunnels that no longer pulsed, past symbols that no longer glowed. Outside, the sky was just beginning to lighten. Dawn. And from far above, a single point of light rose into the sky, bright, steady, disappearing into the stars. In the days that followed, silence returned to the mountain. The rock, once split and humming, now sat dormant, a simple stone stripped of its mystery. Where the crack had been, new wildflowers grew, blue and pale, unlike anything Eli had seen before. Their petals glistened in the morning sun, dew shimmering like tiny constellations. Eli moved through his days in slow rhythm, the cabin quieter than ever. He tended the land, repaired the garden, tried to rebuild the routines that once defined his life. But everything was different now. The world itself felt changed, deeper, older, holding stories he could never fully grasp. Reyes remained for a week, helping catalogue the site for official records. But soon even the agents left, unable to explain what had happened beneath the mountain. The files would be sealed, marked as unresolved geological phenomena, and quickly forgotten by most. Only Eli and Reyes knew what had truly passed. One morning, Eli wandered to the spot where Maya had first traced symbols in the dirt. The ground was warm, soft beneath his hands. He closed his eyes and let the quiet wash over him. There, for a moment, he felt her presence, like the memory of sunlight after rain. Gentle, comforting, real. He spoke softly into the wind. Thank you. The wildflowers stirred, as if in reply. That night, dreams came, not haunting, but bright. He walked beneath unfamiliar stars, heard voices singing songs of hope and remembrance, Faces glowed in the distance. Maya among them, radiant, unburdened. She smiled at him, and he awoke with tears on his cheeks, not from grief but from gratitude. Life in the valley slowly returned. Neighbors speculated about the helicopters, the shaking earth, the new growth around Eli's property. He said little. Some stories are meant to be carried quietly, cherished rather than explained. Reyes called sometimes. She was different now, more open, less guarded. She'd resigned from her position and moved west, taking time to find her own peace. They spoke often of Maya, not as a lost child, but as something greater, a bridge between worlds, someone who chose to carry a memory so others could remember too. Seasons changed. The mountain healed. The stone in the backyard faded back into the landscape, just another part of the earth. But to Eli it would always be more, a silent witness to the impossible. And sometimes on nights when the sky was clear and the air just right, he would hear a faint, melodic hum drifting through the dark. Not loud, not urgent, just a reminder. He would stand on the porch, gaze at the stars, and whisper into the silence, "I hear you." And deep inside, he knew she heard him too. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. There's so much more hidden beneath the surface, stories waiting to be told, mysteries waiting to be discovered. And if you want to keep exploring, click the next video suggested on your screen right now to uncover another secret buried in plain sight. Thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, some echoes never fade.